safety by ensuring a safe and humane environment that incorporates proven rehabilitation initiatives that prepare individuals for successful reentry or reintegration into our communities. We must all work together as an agency, as legislature, and as a community to provide all these opportunities, tools, and support to the offender population, not only while incarcerated, but upon their return back into our neighborhoods. If we do not work together and understand these fundamentals, our families may become potentially the next victims. We have some important goals to accomplish during the 24-25 biennium. Operate the department according to evidence-based and best practices. A little education, the evidence-based practices are programs that are vetted by the Department of Justice through the Institute of Corrections or the American Correctional Association that have been shown to by proven data over a minimum of 3 years that provides evidence that programs' intent results occurred in 51% or more of the individuals in the time of accordance to the fidelity of the programs. Best practices are those programs that have no evidence-based attached to it. However, there's no evidence-based programs that actually exist in the desired outcomes. However, they are still vetted and they show that they work, just not proven by evidence in 51% or more of those who completed the programs. One of these examples of best practice programming is what is used for sexual predators. There is actually no evidence-based program in the entire country for these sex predator treatments. However, there are clinical programs that are utilized to do work, just they do not show evidence of 51% or more of those that have completed the programs. So that was just, I wanted to make sure everyone understood the difference between evidence-based and best practices. Ensuring the best use of our department resources. Utilizing staff to conduct evidence-based programming or best practices provides the best use of our employee resources to receive better outcomes. Not utilizing evidence-based or best practices is a misuse of staff and does not comply with our agency's mission to prepare offenders for release in order to reduce victimizations in our community. Educating stakeholders and customers. The community needs to be aware of the skills and tools that we are providing for the desired results in reentry. It is also the agency's intent to be transparent and making it easier for those in the community to volunteer and assist also in all of our reentry efforts. I truly believe the responsibility to change the behaviors of those incarcerated is up to all of us, not just the NDOC. We all need to be involved in the life-changing events and providing the right tools and resources in order for our communities to be safer when the incarcerated return home to our neighborhoods. Improving communication. Being transparent and in constant communication with our local law enforcement agencies, the legislature, and the local communities provides the opportunities for more success. Success means safer communities for all of us. As an agency, we have a number of common challenges and also opportunities for this biennium. Significant staff shortages and retention. As we know, the staff crisis continues throughout many of the state departments. The correctional system is currently running at over 50% vacancy in officer staffing in the rural facilities. This means that only 50% or less of the positions are filled to operate those facilities. This number does not include those that are on workers' compensation, military leave, sick leave, or vacation leave. The essentials of providing a safe and humane environment may be impacted if these staffing levels continue to worsen. My number one priority is to become creative in finding ways to enhance recruitment, retention, and staff wellness. I have already met with both the Director of Public Safety and the Director of Health and Human Services to team up with these three agencies to find ways to broaden these areas of success and stop the staffing crisis in the state. Just this past weekend, I personally met with the Director of the Florida Department of Corrections, who was identified as the most successful in the country with being creative to reduce staff vacancies. In their system, they went from 58% vacancy in officer staffing in rural facilities to 40% in just 18 months. This is where I want our department to be and better. This is where the marketing, staff wellness, recruitment tools, and retention tools need to improve in our everyday operations. I want to use exemplar strategies that are being used nationwide, that are also relevant to our system, and leverage what worked well for those departments in the past. The limited and outdated, disconnected technology. The next area of priority of mine is to enhance our technologies to assist in programs, support services, education, reduction in violence, and reentry services. We must use best practices from states that have proven positive results. Many of these states have been using technology for many years for not only creating a safer and opportune environment, but a proven reduction in recidivism. In these next few months, I will be introducing these technologies and providing the evidence-based models that are being used throughout the country, which one day will be part of our system in the state of Nevada. Infrastructure. Another priority of the agency has to be the auditing of the infrastructure of each facility to see what needs not only to be repaired and enhanced, but to be solid enough that we all feel and know that our safety of the public, the staff, and those incarcerated under our care are all protected. The neglect on our infrastructure cannot continue. You cannot provide a successful program if the safety of everyone is not protected. You cannot provide a safe community if our external perimeters and buildings are not secure from the years of infrastructure neglect. Training. The NDOC conducts 40 hours annually in-service training and recertifications for every sworn officer. However, deficiencies in staffing prevent compliance. Training cannot be accomplished while working on a security post. Whether the training is in person or in video, the officer still has to be pulled off the post for the training. This means that the post the officer was in and assigned to has to be filled with another officer. Staff and offender safety issues. One immediate observation I have already seen in my return to the Department of Correction was the reduction of services and community providers that assist the offenders to change their behaviors, which also increase their education, providing essential treatment, and connecting their support to their families, and providing jobs and opportunities and tools. This cannot be the sole responsibility of the correctional agency, but the responsibility of all of us, including the legislature and the communities. It is going to be another priority of mine to bring the community partnership into the correctional system, allowing community providers, employers, families, and volunteers more access to the facilities to help in the success of all those who are eventually going to be returned into our neighborhoods. I want this community to be safe for my family and yours. This overview is being shared to you as my first review and approach to enhancing the Department in Public Safety. These are very real and very important concerns that I will be facing and asking for your help with so that we are all going to succeed with the most important results of reducing community victimization. This is so our families and friends will have the opportunities for the safer future. In order to successfully achieve the goals of the agency and also start making progress towards some of the opportunities the governor is recommending, $399 million in fiscal year 24, $406 million in fiscal year 25 for the operation of the seven major facilities, 9 camps, and 2 transitional housing units that are housing units. And this includes 2,918 authorized full-time employees, whereas 949 of these full-time employees go unfilled as of today. Additionally, the governor recommended budget includes $6.8 million in one-shots for a much-needed replacement of equipment, building maintenance, and other important operational investments. We will discuss some of these one-shots in more detail a little later in the presentation. We look forward to working with your staff and also going into additional details related to programs, medical, and other important NDOC budgets during the Public Safety Subcommittee meetings and which are during the legislative session. We are all fully aware the remoteness of some of our correctional institutions around the state are very complex. These institutions have constant interfacility movement. Offender transportation is constantly moving throughout these areas to include, but not limited to, emergencies, transfers to home jurisdictions for release or parole, court subpoenas, and transfers from one facility to another due to program availability, program separations, and transitional housing placements. This requires a lot of staff, and the majority of these transfers are last minute and unplanned. The last-minute transfers become logistical issues when finding last-minute staff to work these times and locations to transport at a time when staff availability is very limited. One of the primary drivers of the NDOC governor's recommended budget is the number of incarcerated individuals in our population. The governor's finance office contracts with JFA Institute to produce 3 separate forecasts for the prison population, which to be completed in April of 22, October of 22, and February of 23. We'll be working with your staff to ensure the NDO budget reflects the most up-to-date population projections during the legislative session. As of 2023 February, we have a total population of 9,968. We have some unique variables that impact our population forecasts, including discretionary parole release, length of stay, and crime rates, and the impact of AB 236 from the 2019 legislative session, and additionally overall population growth that are factored into the calculation of the population. Forecasting the male and female population has been complicated severely due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The question is how long will it take the COVID-19 impact to correct itself is the most important question of what if to answer at this time. JFA has assumed an inevitable rebound will occur in June of 2022 and continue 24 months after. We experienced a drop in admissions in 2020, which continued at the established lower level through 2021 due to the COVID-19 pandemic. A slow rebounding trend began to emerge, and it is assumed it will continue rebounding through the end of 2023. After this rebound, the number of both new commitments and parole violators are assumed to follow the longer-term trend of historical new commitments and increase an average of 2% per year for the remainder of the forecasted horizon. In slide 9, there's, I'm not sure if it was updated on yours, but that red line, if you see on the slide, that's the overall population. It's not the female population that I think it said on the bottom. So the blue is the male population, the red is the overall. Based on the JFA, we expect to house roughly 11,057 incarcerated individuals in the fiscal year of 2024 and 11,250 in the fiscal year of 25. Although this is good news compared to the picture we experienced when I was first leadership in 2017 and 19, we face challenges related to programs and providing the services necessary to be sure our population can safely return back into the community and not come back into our systems. In slides 10 through 17, I'm just going to read the slides. However, they won't be in detail for the presentation, but if you need them in detail, ask the questions, and I have the detail in front of me. It was just too long for explanations, but I have them if you need it. Governor recommends the G01. The Pyxis Med Bank Inventory Management System is approximately $300,000. This machine is an automated medication inventory management system to help increase charge capture, lower inventory spending, and improve regulatory compliance. Pharmacy technician, $111,917. Addition of another pharmacy technician to support the central pharmacy, as well as the growing need of the additional newly licensed NDOC pharmacies across the state. 2-grade increase for officers, $28,123,631. 2-grade increase for correctional officers, senior correction officer, and correction officer trainee positions. Tactical equipment for CERT and Florence McClure Women's Correctional Institution, $4,432. It adds tactical equipment used by the correctional agency's response team for cell extractions. On the one-shot appropriations, the staffing study, $395,000. Medical equipment, $193,165. In-house feeding system, And at Lovelock Correctional Institution, $56,993. In-house feeding system, Ely State Prison, $158,810. A garbage truck at Ely State Prison at $202,000. Emergency system battery replacement at Southern Desert Correctional Institution at $22,834. Call signals for medical needs and emergencies at Northern Nevada Correctional Center is $98,918. Conveyor dishwasher machine at the Northern Nevada Transitional Housing, $36,997. Kitchen and laundry equipment replacement at the Northern Nevada Correctional Center at $24,890. Bakery oven replacement at the Southern Desert Correctional Center, $36,300. And 6 vehicles for inmate transportation, Southern Desert Correctional Center, $276,626. Security cameras and installation at the HCC at $40,000. And exercise cages replacement at the Northern Nevada Correctional Center, $58,876. HCC is the Humboldt camp. Going on, the custody X-ray scanner at Ely State Prison, $29,575. Walk-through metal detector replacement at the Ely State Prison, $9,214. Stab-resistant custody vest replacement at the Ely State Prison at $23,179. Delivery carts for the inmate property at Lovelock Correctional Center at $23,628. Key control system replacement at the Lovelock Correctional Center, $71,740. The walk-through metal detectors, 25 of them, at the High Desert State Prison, $96,174. Computer laptop replacements, $969,500. Replacement of switches, $3,022,392. Replacement of UPS system, $91,232. Replacement of server infrastructure, $682,902. Kitchen and laundry replacement at the Warm Springs Correctional Institution, $230,284. Conveyor dishwasher machine replacement at the Warm Springs Correctional Institution, $36,997. Total request for the one-shot appropriation, $6,887,426. Capital improvement projects, replacing doors, locks, and security glazings at the Southern Desert Correctional Institution, $21,365,841. Installation of security cameras at the High Desert State Prison, $5,527,956. Replacing the security surveillance systems at the Northern Nevada Correctional System, $3,182,837. Replacement of the surveillance camera system at the Lovelock Correctional Center, $3,160,020. Installation of fiber optics loop at the Southern Desert Correctional Institution, $2,016,639. Boiler plant renovation at the RMF at the Northern Nevada Correctional Institution as $1,212,846. A chilled and hot water building piping renovation at the Lovelock Correctional Center, $3,576,991. HVAC systems renovation at the Warm Springs Correctional Institution at $903,742. Direct digital control system upgrade at the Lovelock Correctional Center, $2,772,885. Culinary building plumbing replacement at the Ely State Prison at $3,789,345. Water controls replacement at the High Desert State Prison, $7,363,878. Recreation yard cages at the Northern Nevada Correctional Institution, $2,469,843. Upgrade of the perimeter fencing at the Southern Desert Correctional Institution at $10,633,595. Housing units 1 through floor plumbing, fixture, water control renovations at the Lovelock Correctional Institution at $5,585,892. And an installation of the site camera systems at the Ely State Prison for $1,406,531. Communications room expansion at the Southern Desert Correctional Institution is $1,009,060. Advancement planning, underground piping replacement at the High Desert State Prison, which will be $2,452,028. Total request for capital improvement projects, $90,386,401. That's my conclusion. I'm here for any questions I can help answer, and also if I need to get some further information for you, I will. This is just a quick snapshot of what I see is going to be the forcing us down the road. When you're looking at even our correctional agencies, you're looking at the two main facilities that are even in Carson City are over 60 years old. The infrastructure on those facilities have been degraded to a point where it's becoming dangerous. We're constantly replacing, fixing, upgrading, but it's about time that we upgrade it to the point where we can actually say that I'm comfortable that it's safe for everybody inside and outside. Anyway, thank you for your time.
Thank you, and we'll go to Speaker Yeager.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. Director Zrenda, good to have you back in the great state of Nevada. Welcome, and thanks for your presentation. Madam Chair, I have a couple of questions, if I could. And the first one, wanted to say thank you, because you mentioned Assembly Bill 236, and we worked on that together. And I think at the time we worked on that, there was a real crisis looming for the state, where those JFA projections you were talking about told us we were going to have to build more prisons, which was something we didn't want to do in the state. What I think maybe people don't know is most of Assembly Bill 236 didn't go into effect until July 1 of 2020, which was a few months after the COVID pandemic started. And so I wanted to confirm something you said, because I think I understood it, but the projections, the actual population, the prison population in Nevada and probably everywhere in the country took a dramatic downturn once COVID hit. And now that we're coming out of COVID, what we're seeing is an uptick, not just in population, but JFA thinks that's going to happen long term. So I just wanted to get maybe your thoughts on this, on what did COVID do in that moment that caused that downturn, and why do we think it's going to be going back up into the future?
James Zrenda for the record. Just personally, and I don't have any data to support this, but when even working in New York, when where the pandemic started, everyone was put on pretty much like household, so nobody was able to come out. There was less crime happening actually in the communities, even in New York. At the time of COVID, because less businesses were open, less people come into the communities from out of the country. And I expect that's all similar to what we saw in Nevada with the airport shutting down, less individuals coming across from either the one part of the country or internationally, having those individuals not out in the public as visible. Crime started slowing down. I do believe JFA is accurate to say that the population will increase, but I'm not too sure how it's going to increase as it claims. There's so much going on right now with what our future projections are going to look like with, what's going to happen with parole, what's going to happen with the courts, what's going to happen with some of the laws that do change that actually affect the population. Is the increase in population something that I can control? Yes, it is. If we do a better job, all of us, in how we operate the system, how I can increase the services that I'm going to be providing for support services, for reentry services, the jobs, I know that's the impact that I can make to be able to change behaviors. There's programs that are out there that are proven, like I said, evidence-based to change the bad behaviors. If I don't do those, I know those individuals are going to victimize all of us. We're going to see them back. I have to make sure that the agency increases its possibilities of doing these better programs and doing a better job at reentry. Our goal has to be able to make those leaving our system more successful and connecting those families and resources so we don't see them back. That's how I control the population. What happens in the community, parole in the courts, is not under my control, but I do have something under my control to be able to change behavior.
Great. Thank you. Madam Chair, could I ask a quick follow-up on that?
Please.
And thank you, Director. You maybe stole the thunder a little bit on my second question, but of course, we have a Department of Corrections in the state. It's not a Department of Prison. And the idea, I think, there is you try to correct behavior. So when people come out, they're not re-victimizing and they're not going back through the system. And of course, you mentioned some really important things to do that, programming, whether it's mental health, substance abuse, anger management, reentry services. We can't do business as usual and expect different results. And I think certainly aligned philosophically. My question is, where in the budget do we see that? Because I heard a lot about capital improvements, which are obviously needed, but are there specific appropriations for programming? Are we going to see that in the personnel budget? Where do I find that in the budget that was presented today?
James Arena for the record. So when you look at programming, we don't have to provide and pay for the services. That's what we could use the community programs for. That's what we could use those community providers, the activist groups, the families. That's why you're going to see an enormous shift in the way we're doing business just in the next 6 months with bringing in those resources to us. What the community is already doing, what these job opportunities, we're going to see a huge shift in the way we're doing business in the next 6 months. And it's actually, you're going to see it shifting next week. There's providers out there and clinicians and services. I mean, Hope for Prisoners came to me, and they have millions of dollars in funds that they want to be able to utilize to be able to change the behaviors of those in our system. I'm going to use it. We don't have to be the ones taking the weight and paying for the services and doing this. If I get creative, I can create services and programs to be able to make this work. And there's something else that's going to be introduced in a couple of weeks in a bill that we're going to be even introducing programs through tablets, through wireless devices. All these things are used in almost every single state prison system in the country but Nevada. They cost nothing. But the outcomes and projections that happen when you utilize these things is enormous. And it is proven to do the right thing to keep those individuals from victimizing us when they get back into our communities, which means it's all of us win. Outside of staffing, we don't need the money to be able to increase those. I got the resources to be able to do this, and I'm going to make it work.
Thank you very much, and we'll go to Senator Titus.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and great to see you, Director, back in this great state of ours. I have a couple questions. You mentioned, and you had on page 11, medical equipment, $193. That seems like a small amount of money for any piece of medical equipment. And you perhaps could get some details or the body, what that might entail and where that would even go. You can hardly even buy a stethoscope for that anymore. I exaggerate, but just saying. So do you have an answer on what that is?
I have our medical expert here today, which James Arena for the record, that can go over it and how he came up with that actual number and what it's
and
for.
Along the same line, why he's coming to the table to come up with that. One of the discussions we've had many times in this committee is Medicaid eligibility and health care and access to medications when they're discharged. I didn't hear anything in your presentation regarding plans for that. I just think it's absolutely critical that folks that are in prison in a environment where they're either started on medication or continue medication need to have, in my world, a warm handoff. And making sure that they have that Medicaid eligibility, making sure that they have that appointment with their provider, making sure they have a couple weeks worth of their medication, and love to see what you and your team are planning on that. I know this was a high-level view, but I think that's incredibly important for folks reentering society and making sure they don't immediately go back to our ER because they're out of their medication or a behavior or something. So I'd love to hear where you are in that process.
So James Arena, for the record, before he speaks about the medical equipment, you're going to ruin my surprise on what I'm going to be entering into AB 35. So what I'm looking at, what we're doing, I already met with Director Whitley. I met with quite a few different providers already. In these wireless devices, there's going to be an app there for every offender to use that are used from their cells to start the application process for Medicaid. And the Health and Human Services are going to provide the staffing to come in to guide them through the process. What happens on these is we will have it all completed, the Medicaid application, before they even discharge. That's going to go up into our cloud where we can give access to that to Health and Human Services and everybody when they get out. It's going to fast track the Medicaid system to be able to get them on quicker. What it's also going to do is there's going to be apps on these wireless devices for medical and mental health. One of them is going to be for medical emergencies and mental health emergencies that are going to be direct right from the tablet to a source that I provide. It's going to require immediate assistance. Doesn't mean response and run, but has to be a phone call. Something has to happen. In there, it's going to keep track of appointments. It's also going to keep track of requests. So if there's issues, it'll track them. It'll it'll notify the medical and mental health what the issue is, what the appointment is. The appointment comes back, it gets verified. When they get transferred over to the parole division or they get transferred out, those apps that are on there, they have access to them when they discharge as well. Because everything they're going to be doing on these wireless devices, they'll be into a cloud. They'll be told how they can get back to those again. It's going to list all their medications on it that they're on. It's going to education on the medications, the side effects. Everything's going to be on the tablets. I call them tablets, wireless devices. Even on there, it's going to have education on there about their medication. What happens when you're on psychotropic meds and you stop taking it, or you feel sick when you take it? What do you do? What do you do when you think you're better and you're taking it, and how bad it would be to replace in the system to stop taking your medication? Also, it's going to line up wherever they're being discharged to. It's going to line up where they can actually receive their medication from. And we do provide and will be providing medication when they discharge. And then the app is going to be able to provide it to them on the tablet itself, but and print out when they leave where they're going to be getting their medication and who they're going to be seeing for a follow-up on a clinician.
Thank you for that. And all of this will be in their language?
James Arena, for the record, actually, it doesn't matter the language. There's translation services, over 42 different languages, which I didn't even know there was that we have, but it's all going to be in translated services, closed caption, and it's also going to be a translation services for us as well.
Great. And then the equipment?
The equipment is no charge to the state. That comes in with the company, which I'll explain in the AB 35 and how that works.
I meant the medical equipment.
Oh. James Arnett, for the record, sorry about that.
That's from Harold. For the record, Russ Alfano, Medical Administrator for the Nevada Department of Corrections. The $193,000 that is presented in this is just for replacement equipment, ongoing. We have basically established schedules for like automatic external defibrillators. Their lifespan is about 4 years before the pads wear out and batteries are tough to get. So that is just a culmination. IV pumps, vital signs monitors, O2 monitors, just the equipment that wears out through use over time that needs to be replaced and maintained so that we can provide services.
Right, thank you. One more question, Madam Chair. Shouldn't be long, thank you. My next question is not related to healthcare per se, but I'm going to use a healthcare analogy. We will frequently say our hospital is full. Even though it's not actually full, we might have empty beds, but because we don't have staffing to take care of the beds. And I'm wondering if you have the capacity, because of your vacancy rate, that 50%, to house the inmates that we have, and if you do not, do you have cooperative agreements with county jails where you could house your inmates that may have been sentenced, but there's no bed at the inn, so to speak?
James Arnett, for the record, first of all, with the county jails, no, we can't send them back. Where there's no agreements right now, there's actually a court case in Clark County Detention Center where the judges ordered us to return one of them to the county jail, and they're refusing to take them. So that's all being processed in the courts now, whether there is any jurisdiction where I can put somebody in there. On a time of emergency, I'm sure we can push it. Right now, I'm not at the state of emergency with our medical coverage, and I am with the medical coverage, but with the medical bed space. Russ can probably talk about the staffing for the medical areas.
For the record, Russ Alfano, Medical Administrator. Do you have any question particular or specific that I could address, ma'am?
Well, not specific to medical, but I did get a call from a constituent regarding an issue where her daughter was killed by a drunk driver. He was sentenced. It was their DUI. He was sent to prison, convicted, but went to an honor camp directly. And I've really been looking into the law of where folks can go, where they can be sentenced. And apparently in DUIs, they have to be separated from dangerous or criminal, what's the term? They have to be separated from violent offenders. And so, there apparently wasn't a space for him in a minimal security, and he went directly to an honor camp. And of course, the family's concerned that that's what he gets after a 20-year sentence. He goes immediately to an honor camp, not serving any other time. So I was just wondering if the bed capacity was the issue, not just for medical beds, but if you have the beds available to house minimum security inmates.
James Renner, for the record, I'm not sure that was really medically related why he went. I mean, I could follow up on specifics with it. But we are trying, a goal is we're trying to get those individuals that are in our care closer to transitional centers or the camps where I can provide more opportunities for community involvement. So when you talk about, the minimum security facilities, it could be like Warm Springs where they didn't have anything here for transition. So it could be a little more than that. It's not about the medical, why they would go, because there's actually less medical in those camp areas. But there is more ways that I could provide transitional services to get back into the community. And how egregious the crimes are, they're still going back into the community, and I do the best we could to move them to the lowest level possible that have the most resources for transition. And sometimes some people won't want to understand why we do that, but it's more towards public safety.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for the questions, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, and we'll go to Vice Chair Monroe Moreno, and then over to Senator Gokachia.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I have a few questions, if that's okay.
Go ahead.
All right. First of all, welcome back. I have a few questions. The first one, in recent news stories, there's been hunger strikes at the prison system, long hunger strikes. Do you think on page 11, some of those one-shot appropriations for the changes to the feeding system and the bakery ovens will help with some of the complaints that the inmates have and maybe alleviate any other hunger strikes in the future?
James Arena, for the record, I'm glad you asked that question. Yes, this is part of the plan to try to help in really building up our food services to provide, keep with the nutritional levels, but to provide the visuals of what we provide looking better. So I met with the CEO of Aramark last weekend, who's going to be meeting with all of our staff, and I welcome anyone that has any issues of local facilities that are prisons that are or camps that have issues with the food services to be able to come up with more creative ways to make the food more inviting looking and more appetizing. What happened in the state in the court case back when it started in 2018 is about the sodium levels. So what ended up happening with food services through companies like Aramark is they had to change the way they do their food services. We're to the point where the food is more bland. It's actually in lesser quantities because it's more rich in other stuff to make up for the sodium loss. Having that cap on the sodium levels in the food really makes it less appetizing. However, we're going to start getting more creative. Like I said, we're going to be meeting with Aramark to try to come up with these creative ways, cooking more of our own foods to actually add supplies of more of the better foods, the greens, the vegetables, to beef up the looks of the food, more appetizing, but also to make it look like it's going to be more filling. And that was really the response around the food hunger strikes. It's really the change in the food vendor that ended up complying with the state regulation on the sodium that lowered the levels of the looks and the appetite of the food, and it's really not as much. Still meets nutritional levels, but it's not appetizing looking, and we're going to look at preparing it a little better, creatively.
Thank you for that. I'm happy to hear that. May be able to help it look better taste better would be ideal. Inmate programs. During COVID, a lot of the inmate programs that we had, we weren't able to operate them. Have you been able to bring them back? What's the current situation of inmate programs?
I didn't see any program since I've been here, so I don't know what they did with them, where they went. But I'm big into the program piece. I'm increasing the services, like I said. We're going to get more creative so that when the staffing levels go down or there's another pandemic, that we're not going to be relying on the same type programs and services that we were relying on. And one of them, again, is the wireless devices, where I can do school, college courses, I can do job interviews, I can do job applications, I can do regular MRT, which is one of our highest-based behavior program, evidence-based program, moral recognition therapy. It's all going to be done on these wireless devices that have, like I said, have been proven to change the behaviors around the country. Substance use disorder treatment. We're going to be doing a lot of the programs that either are non-existent today or that we can actually provide and let the community providers do that with us, so it's going to be of no cost. But the programs is not where I want to be, and I know it needs to be better.
And so let me get a little bit more specific. The inmate work programs. We had programs that help inmates prepare themselves for working outside of jail once they got out, outside the prison once they got out. Where are those inmate work programs at?
So again, I'm giving you stuff that I was going to surprise everyone with. So anyway, James Arena for the record. So I do have I've started teaming up with companies like Ahern and through Hope for Prisoners. Really doing an increase in the job market and training in the correctional facilities. Just met with Department of Motor Vehicle yesterday to do an even CDL license, commercial driver's license for those at the women's facility and the men's facilities. We're going to be doing, I know this isn't going to be happy with some individuals, but I'm going to eliminate those job opportunities that are not sustaining. We're doing a great job with cosmetology and beautician, and they're not getting jobs and they're not sustaining themselves. I'm going to be looking at these higher pay scaled jobs that I already have through Ahern, and we also have companies up in the north that are going to be doing this with us. But they're really the higher paying jobs. We're getting simulators in for welding training, high level welding, CDL license, like I said. We're going to be doing a lot more creative and bigger stuff that's going to actually get those individuals jobs in the community that are more sustaining and more livable.
Okay, I'm almost finished, Madam Chair. Going to page 10, the 2 pay grade increase for officers. Sounds great, but what's the current starting salary or average salary of your officers?
I don't, James Render for the record, I don't want to come out and say what the actual starting pay is because I don't know, but I'll definitely follow up and forward with that so you see where it's actually at today.
Okay, and the reason I asked that because early in your presentation you said you were looking to Florida to make some changes here to bring people on. So I quickly logged on to see what Florida's starting pay is, and the starting pay there is it's $41,600 as the base pay, but when you add in the entire benefits package, it's almost $71,000. So exactly what are you looking at in Florida that you hope to bring here, and how's that going to impact my budget?
James Arenda for the record, and I just saw that it's actually $45,000 starting here. So it's hard to look at, James Arenda for the record if I didn't say that, but it's hard to say that here. You can't really just look at starting salaries because here we have a PERS system that takes about 24% of the employees' pay. So the take-home pay isn't what it looks like when you're talking about $45,000, where Florida doesn't have that. But when Florida, what they were doing, which is something that I'm teaming up with Public Safety and also Health and Human Services, they actually hired, and this is where it's going to cost, they hired marketing firms that target companies that are in the states around you, like California, that are going out of businesses and that are laying off, and they target them for law enforcement occupations. And they also do all the marketing and social media for all that, and physically going and pulling those individuals to try to recruit them for the state and explaining why the state of Nevada will actually be a resource and better for them for less cost of living. The taxes were income taxes and that don't exist here that they do there. So that's what Florida did. That's what I think is going to be a benefit for us. Pay in itself doesn't keep people, doesn't hire people, but it's the whole thing together. And employee wellness, we keep forgetting that is part of what is that the keeping employees in place and happy and keeping them employed is what employee wellness becomes. And I got to look at that as well, not just recruitment and retention, but there are opportunities. The last opportunity I would ever want to do that Florida did when they were really desperate because they were getting to the point where it was becoming too dangerous. They had the National Guard come in and they were actually covered all the posts that were non-offender related posts. And then they said about half of the National Guard actually joined the correctional agency. But that's not where I'm going with it. But the marketing and recruiting is going to be ideal on what they did and how they actually did it.
And I promise this is my last thing. So we have lost a lot of officers, and we're hurting in every department across the state with employees. I haven't looked deeply into your budget, but do you have a plan for rewarding those officers who have stayed on through the hard times?
James ran it for the record, so I don't think we have anything for the, if you're talking about even longevity or that I know of. No.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, and we will go to Senator Gansert.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Kind of circling back to different types of job opportunities and preparation and training. So have you looked into anything within computer science? So there's all sorts of certifications you can get now for building websites or Amazon Web Services. There's different ones that are limited as far as time, but basically gives you a credential that you can put in your pocket, and you're those jobs pay very well, and that your environment may be a good opportunity, a good place for folks to work on something like that.
James Aranda for the record. Coincidentally, just this morning, our staff met with NCHI staff, and they are going to be putting that on the tablets as well, the wireless devices, on learning computer systems, education, and actually getting degrees in computer science. So it is. I don't have the job opportunities for say, but we are doing the training for it because IT is a big employment opportunity around the country. So the education is coming to be able to do that.
I appreciate that. And, I happen to be looking at the website for UNLV, and they have stackable components of programs. So I'm glad to hear that you're looking to work with NCHI.
Thank you very much. Assemblyman C.H. Miller.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you all. So I'm a little curious about some of the programs that you are some of the work programs you're looking to cut. You mentioned specifically cosmetology. I don't know if you're saying that you're looking to cut that, but I'm actually interested to know what the issue or if there's a failure rate or something that we're looking at there. And I ask that because you used it in the context of sustainable jobs and higher paying jobs. So my background, I come from being a cosmetologist for 12 years right here in this state. My family, several of us are cosmetologists, salon owners, and not salon owners, just business owners where we controlled our own life and schedule. So my question here is, I see that as a very high-paying, sustainable way of being able to support your family because it worked for me. So I'm curious to know, if we're cutting that, what's the reason, and what other programs are we looking at cutting in that workforce pipeline?
Thank you, James Aranda for the record. So it's not cutting, it's opening these other opportunities for paying jobs, because we're getting influx with those that are at the Florence McLaurin Correctional Center that are trying to get into those cosmetology and beautician classes, where they're getting so much of an influx we can't get them the opportunities for the jobs when they go out. So some are, some aren't. What I want to do is have more opportunities for these high-paying jobs so that we could subsidize to have some of the women that are interested in the CDL license, some that are interested in cosmetology, beautician, because when you flood the system and flood it to that type only that we have, then they're not going to be successful in being able to apply into the same job when they're going out in the same neighborhoods.
I'm clear. Okay, and this is just so that I'm clear. So you're looking to expand more programs, not cut what you have.
James Renner for the record. Sorry if I didn't clear that. Yes, you're correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, and we'll go to Senator Neal.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I had a question on the two questions. I'm going to start with the medical copays. So it's my understanding as director, you have discretion on the medical copays. It's also something that the audit said that we're the highest in the nation, and it is a medical cost that follows the offender upon release. So how are we going to manage this cost or these assessments that are being charged to the offenders when they exit? Are we going to think about how the sustainability of that will work within a workforce environment? And then I have a follow-up to that.
For the record, Russ Alfano, Medical Administrator, Department of Corrections. With regards to copays, that exists solely in AR 245, which is governed by the Department of Corrections, and there is a we did a study about a year ago as a result of the audit, and I've yet to been able to present these to Director Zarenda, but I anticipate having a conversation with him in the near to immediate future, the way he moves, and we are presenting two alternatives to doing copays in the short run. In the long term, to answer the other half of your question, the bills following the inmate upon release, or the offender rather, that is not our purview. That is through a different agency.
Okay, so my next follow-up to where I'm going in this. So you mentioned Ahern and some other outside companies that you're looking to engage in for, I'm assuming, prison industries. So what's the wage that you're talking to them about, right? Because last session I had a bill, and it's well known that some offenders get 50 cents an hour, some 75, some $1, depending on the prison. Well, there's a federal standard, and there could be a prevailing wage depending upon the industry. What are you asking these private employers to pay them? Because they also need to be able to offset Marcy's Law and other things that you're charging and deducting them for, such as food, clothes, etc.
James Renda for the record. I'm sorry if I wasn't clear on this. They're not going to get paid. It's not a work. They're not working. They're not getting the CDLs and then driving and taking stuff anywhere. It's actually a program that they're going to start learning and getting the certifications and licensures before they go out. Ahern has positions and opportunities for them as soon as they're released. So it's not working in the institution, and it's not through prison industries.
Got it. So is there any conversation to deal with prison industries and the wage that is actually being, because if you make 50 cents, right, and then you're charged $10, you owe the prison.
For the record, Bill Quinga, Deputy Director of Industrial Programs. We do have in our programs, we have different levels of opportunities of employment within prison industries. We have the stepping stone where they start in as a porter, janitor, something like that. They come in anywhere from $1 to $3 an hour, but they take 34.5% for room and board. It's 24.5%, 5% for Victim Crimes Fund, and 5% for Prison Industries Capital. We do have other, so that's a stepping stone. We have a trust company that we brought in, and I brought in through the Community Industrial Programs, where they're paying minimum wage at this time. We also have other companies that are paying higher. For example, our welding program, which is state-run at Northern Nevada Correctional Center, we get a study from Dieter. Every May, we get it in and implement it. We have to pay the 10 percentile of the prevailing wage of that SOC code in that geographical area. So right now, our welders, we have a welding program that is going through WNC. Our welders right now, depending on the code, they make as high as $14 to $15 an hour. So there's opportunities for them to start at a lower level, better themselves, and go up, take these classes, and gain employment. And they're also getting their degrees in applied science, and we just had approximately 10 during COVID. They got their degrees, and we're continuing and also working with WNC to get the CDL simulator to work with our compost program so that they have 30, 40 trucks coming in every day. What we want to do is set up the CDL program like the director is saying, work that in our state and run that program. What they will do is, once they're classified properly, they will drive these trucks back and forth to Fernley and then park it at night and stay at the camp. But they'll be making minimum wage or more.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. I have a quick question, and we've kind of bounced around about this, but what about just a straight education, like I don't have my high school diploma person? What are we doing with those people, and how are we addressing that so that they walk out of there at least with a high school diploma?
James Arenda for the record. So right now, it all depends on where you're housed and what type of education you're getting for the GED. These wireless program devices are going to give it to everybody. And there's going to be teachers that we're going to be going to individual housing units to help them navigate the tablets or the wireless devices. But the GED is going to be offered to everyone that doesn't have it. They can do their schoolwork right on the tablets. They can do almost like they're doing long distance learning with the high schools when we had COVID. But it's all going to be done through the wireless devices. But every single offender that will have the opportunity, if they don't have a high school degree, to get one.
All right, thank you. Senator Gocochea.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I didn't really have a question, more of a comment, but along the lines of your CDL training, you know, now the law is, in order to get a CDL or test for a CDL, you have to be a graduate of a truck driving school. So you would need that accreditation to help those people along, but I think you're on the right track, and it's huge, because not that we want them to get incarcerated to get to class, but you know, along those lines, if you can in fact get that certificate for them, and of course, Bill and you guys, you know, I've got a lot of respect. Well, the question I do have though is, and you didn't touch on it, but we presently got at least 3 honor camps closed in Warm Springs, I believe, and you know, I know you're talking about reopening them, but it looked like in the GovRec, maybe White Pine County was going to stay closed. Again, that training, that job opportunity, and we touched on this with Division of Forestry yesterday, if you guys don't have those fire crews there, they don't have a program. I'm sorry.
Real quick, sorry, James Arenda for the record, and I have a meeting set up with you don't even know yet about just what you asked. But anyway, when you're talking about the Warm Springs, and I know I was waiting for a question about it. My partake of what I think about when I think of prison systems and corrections, you want the majority of the offenders to be in areas where the most resources are, where the most clinicians, where the medical, the mental health, the programmings. In the camps, it's very difficult. I'm not sure why the agency, it was probably because they were in crisis, but why would they even close Warm Springs? We had so many resources from Reno, from Renown, everything that I need right around the agency. So it is going to be something I'm looking at about what to do with the Warm Springs, but I think it's a big shame if it remains closed. I do think we could bring those offenders closer to here to be able to do services a lot better and to be able to provide more opportunities.
Thank you very much. Any additional questions from the committee? All right, I guess we're all talked out. Thank you very much for the information. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. And we know where you are if we have additional questions. Thank you very much. And with that, this brings us to the last agenda item for the day, public comment. This is the second and last period of public comment on the agenda. As a reminder, due to time considerations, each person providing public comment will be limited to no more than 2 minutes. Please remember to state and spell your name for the record. To call in to provide testimony during the public comment period, dial 669-900-6833. When prompted to provide the meeting ID, please enter 862-2027-5988 and press pound. When prompted for the meeting ID, please press pound. And the call information is also on today's agenda. I'll begin with public comment here in Carson City. Seeing none, I'll go to Las Vegas. Do we have any public comment there in Las Vegas? Seeing none, we'll go to the phone lines. BPS, when you're ready.
To provide public comment, please press *9 on your phone to take your place in the queue. Caller, you are unmuted on our end. You may begin.
Okay. Thank you. My name is Sarah Marks, and I am a registration service located in Henderson, Nevada. I'm also a woman-owned business. And I wanted to address two things today that perhaps were an oversight or miscommunication. But in talking about registration services and DMV, I'm a member of the Registration Services Association of Nevada. We're a small group of individual owners. Most of us are minority owners and women-owned businesses. And we work well with Ms. Butler. She's done a good job to try and help us to be better with the DMV in helping consumers and constituents. And the question came up about senior citizens. And I just wanted to put forward that we do offer discounted services, many of us as individual business owners, to the seniors that do not have access to DMV. We also provide similar types of financial discounts to veterans who perhaps cannot get into DMV in a timely manner. And I just wanted to reassure those who have questions that aside from the typical DMV scenario, Registration Services Association of Nevada is here to help, and we want to help improve the registration process in any way that we can. And I want to thank Mr. Watts and Ms. May and some of the others that have spoken with us regarding our services and how we can help DMV move forward. And one other comment, I know that the budget has been addressed with giving employees of DMV more money because they are on the lower payer scale. But I would like to put a caveat to that, and it's not just DMV. I think that there needs to be a way for the DMV management to clean out the lesser ranks that are not performing at the level that they should be. And it seems that their hands are tied with regard to being able to either bonus people who do extremely well or get rid of the dead weight. And it's not, again, not just DMV, in my opinion. It's a lot of state agencies. But when newcomers see that someone who's been there.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your comments. Thank you. Next caller, please.
Chair, the public line is open and working. However, there are no more callers to provide public comment at this time.
All right. Thank you very much. Well, that's it for today's agenda. I'd like to thank all of those who participated in today's meeting. This is the last meeting of the Legislative Committee's Budget Subcommittee. Session starts Monday. Put a smile on your face. And I'd like to thank all the staff that has helped prepare all of this information for us for the last 2 weeks. We could not do it without you, and we are very appreciative of your work. So with that, thank you. All of you have a nice weekend, and we'll see you on Monday. Fun day.